Hey everyone, so we're going to take a look at Netflix today, which is slightly different to what we usually cover because I usually cover all things cryptocurrency and Bitcoin when it comes to trading and investing on this channel. But this is primarily a money-making channel and how to find opportunities in the market. And when I see rare opportunities in the stock market that come and they smack you in the face, I do think that they are worth looking at and taking advantage of. This is clearly going to be a massive buying opportunity soon. I'm not sure if that occurs exactly at this moment in time, because when you see these massive moves, they do tend to be a little bit of a process and form bottoms. So we're going to start to look at some patterns today. But I do think this is going to be a massive buy the dip opportunity because we very, very rarely get these massive drawdowns in like these massive top stocks. So the FANG stocks of Facebook, Amazon, Google, Netflix, and Microsoft, these are ones that you want to take advantage of. And if you get that massive drawdown in price, take advantage of it. So if we just draw ourselves back to the history of Netflix, what can we see, and what parallels can we take from current price action to what's happened in the past? So whenever we've had a drawdown of 80, 70, 60%, okay, what have we historically seen? We have historically seen that every single time we have had massive corrections, that we've either gone on to bounce massively or had some sort of massive impulsive move to the upside, or actually just continued the next leg of the market into the next bull cycle. And currently that looks like something that may be happening, as we've basically dropped down near on 70% in about 3 months, which is pretty insane given the market cap of Netflix, and all to do with pretty much earnings and losing about 200,000 subscribers, which is, it's all really just noise to me when I see these opportunities in the market. Trade what I see in front of me, and yeah, that's usually the best way to be taking advantage of these situations. And at the minute, if we are about 68 to 70% down from all-time highs, what can we also deduce from that? Well, previously I've already had a look at this, okay, but whenever we've dropped about 65, 68% or so, okay, I can tell you that we've basically dropped anywhere a further 25 to about 35%. So anywhere between that 20%, 35%, historically showing us that there might be further drawdown from here. But I do think that the bottom may very well be pretty close. So if you buy Netflix from here and you want to hold this for the long term, can you complain? Absolutely not. You're getting a 70% discount on one of the best stocks and the top stocks in the stock market, which typically trends up with time. So, I do think that time is going to come when we see that reversal. But I think that this at least has probably got at least another week or 2 or 3 or 4 before we start seeing some bottoming signs. So the first thing that we can see over here is we've basically had this massive level of horizontal support at $230 smash straight through. And if we look at this on the daily time frame, we can see these massive gaps over here, okay, that we've created to the downside. And typically up gaps get filled, and when you get gaps to the downside, sometimes when you get gaps below you, they don't always typically tend to fill, okay. There's no guarantee of those, but typically, especially with all the top stocks, there is a lot more certainty, should I say, or probability is a lot higher for those gaps above us to at least partially fill or close. So even if we look at current prices from here to the top of the gap that we just dropped down from is about 50%, and if we were to close the gap above that, that is 125% upside potential for Netflix. But like I said, I think this is going to be a bit more of a process to form a bottom. And as we've lost this, if we just drop this to the weekly time frame, I think it's a lot easier to see. You can see that if you know how to trade order blocks properly, when you lose these key support levels over here, what you're looking for is the next cluster of price action to basically support us, and that is coming in somewhere hot at about $81 to $130. And in my opinion, I'm not sure Netflix would ever go below this level at least, at the very least, without any like serious buy stepping in for a bounce. So I think that the lowest that Netflix goes from here is potentially down to this level at about $130 to $140, which is the next order block, but there's no guarantees that we get there, okay? So just in case you don't know how order blocks work, price is in a range and we break out from that range, okay? And then essentially we go back and revisit those levels, okay? So you can see that it's basically, you're looking at the down candle, so you can see this on the weekly, before the up move that breaks the structure of the market and then leads up to new highs. So this would be the first area that I would be looking at for Netflix for support, but you can see that we've also got some order blocks somewhere down here, okay, if you want to play this on the daily time frame, and then, you know, a few more down below that, but the most obvious one is about $130. So at the moment, we're at a $218. If we just clean up the chart and get rid of that, all of our squiggly lines, you can see that we might end up sort of grinding and chopping and forming some sort of at least short-term base in and around over here, and maybe actually, you know, take out some of the liquidity from some of these lows that we took out about $230, and then maybe potentially start swinging back to the upside and attacking some of those up gaps that we spoke about a moment ago. As we are about halfway through the video, if you're getting value from this content, then consider dropping me a like and consider definitely dropping me a subscribe for some of the 200,000 subscribers that Netflix lost. Send them over my way. That would be amazing. I keep you up to date with all things trading and investing in the major markets, in particular cryptocurrencies. So yeah, without further ado, let's crack on with the video. I've been trading stocks as long as I have been trading crypto, if not longer. So I'm pretty aware of when you get these massive moves to the downside. And, you know, it does remind me of stocks like Tesla and Facebook when we see massive drops and drawdowns in the past. And if we just quickly get some of these stocks up where we can have a look at some of the previous price history that we've had, and we just bring up Facebook over here, okay, you can see that in the past that when we've had these massive gap downs, right, that you know, maybe initially it wasn't always the best time to buy, okay, or, you know, when we got these massive corrections in these massive stocks, okay, but we eventually come down, you know, and I talk about order blocks. You can see that exactly over here on Facebook. Okay, and just get rid of the VPVR, and you can see that, you know, once we actually end up attacking some of these zones, breaking key support, just as we have done on Netflix at the moment, that we typically tend to get a massive leg back to the upside, and then we basically get reversion to the mean and continuation of the overall bull market trend. I'm taking a look at the VPVR, okay, you can see that this is why I love this indicator so much, right? It's not even an indicator, it's basically like a statement or an indication of fact of what is going on in the chart, right? Is that we've had this low area of volume at $260 where price basically never hangs around, and you can see that as soon as we lost this level of about $230, $235, it's basically a void in volume where price doesn't like to be traded and business doesn't stay at those levels for a very long time. So we're looking at the next area of low volume to come in at, lo and behold, somewhere here at about $130 to about $140, the top of the last order block. So that's another reason why I am looking at this level, you know, to be support. But I do think that we're likely going to get some choppiness over here, and maybe we move up here, and then maybe we make one final leg down somewhere down here, because like I said, everything does not move in a straight line, even though when you think price is going to, you know, reach some of those targets that you might have, in the same way that Bitcoin, you know, I talk about, you know, reaching potentially those 30k levels, below 30k. You know, it's going to be a process. It's not just going to be straight down. Personally, I'm happy buying into Netflix anywhere from here down to about $130 in my opinion, because you do not know exactly where the bottom is, okay? And usually what institutions tend to do is they tend to drop price, suppress it for quite a while, make people believe that it's going to go even lower, and then swing the price back to the upside, basically when the news is really bad and, you know, they make you feel like the company's going to completely fold. But you'll know exactly what's sort of happening at these levels, because if we start to see some sort of, like, say, descending channel like this, or descending triangle, and then, you know, the bottom of this sort of triangle kind of coincides with some of these prices that we're talking about, or we're looking at some potential. Let's say we move down here and we form some sort of accumulation here, and then everyone will sort of say, hey, this is like some sort of bear flag to move lower. Likely this is going to be some sort of tradable price action to move back to the upside. So I'm definitely looking out for some of these patterns to be playing out, and this is how it needs to feel when there is a lot of pain in the market. Like, it's gonna go lower, but it doesn't always typically work out that way. And like I said, I think Netflix for the future is going to be hold. Netflix is going to be back. Okay, any issues that they've got, they're very likely to sort out. And we'll quickly take a look again at the RSI. Now, just bear in mind that RSI is a momentum indicator, and it doesn't tell you exactly where the bottom is. And if you do buy oversold RSI, a lot of the times you can end up holding this for longer than you might want to, because you might not exactly get the bottom. However, historically speaking, you can see that every time Netflix, right, has hit that 30 region or below, okay, even over here was probably a little bit more similar back in 2011, that price, just like this is what I'm saying about hitting processes, for bottoms taking a little bit of a process, where as soon as we went under that oversold region, as we are at the moment, in the long term it was a good buying opportunity. And you can see that what did we do last time is basically we came down to these order blocks, okay, that we that we previously broke out from, and then retested these areas and then moved back to the upside. So that's why I'm looking for something similar to be forming here. Maybe we don't exactly get to $130, but look at what happened over here in 2011. We moved down, we moved up, and then we basically came down for one final low. But what can you see? I know I'm on the weekly chart, but you can see that over here we had this massive downside movement, exactly as we've seen at the moment. And like I said, maybe we come up, revert to the mean a little bit, but you can see we started to grind here, and the price action started to become a lot more rounded, and the selling was not as intense. So if we see something similar here, where maybe we try to push back up and then move back down, and then we form some sort of slower correcting selling pressure, that might be a signal that the market will probably reverse soon on a stock like this. And this is exactly what I was talking about. You can see here that we formed some sort of like descending triangle, okay, and we got those descending triangles towards the bottom of an impulsive move to the downside, and then we basically broke out to new highs and resumed the trend. So let's basically be keeping an eye on this, buying at these RSI lows. You can't take this as an absolute, but buying at this time when the RSI is so low is historically a good time to be buying. Now, another thing that I just want to make you aware of, I've actually just recently made a little video on this, interestingly enough, but I do look out for divergences on the RSI, but only when I get really, really clear signals. So for me, that is actually like triple divergences. So sometimes when you see price is starting to move lower, but the RSI is starting to move higher, when I see that 3 times, okay, that is for me usually a pretty clear buy signal, and gives you and basically puts the probabilities a lot more in your favor. So basically, if we start to move lower here, you can see that we made this low over here on the 1st of February. Okay, we've made a higher low now, but the price is actually lower. Okay, maybe if we chop around here, the RSI maybe corrects back like this, into that neutral range, and then we basically maybe move lower, but the RSI usually might even come down just to that oversold region. If we reach this, okay, that might coincide as well with some of these targets down here that we're speaking about at about $130 to $140. So definitely something that I'm looking at here. If I get that triple divergence of lower lows and 3 higher highs on that RSI, then that's going to give me some sort of indication that we can at least swing that back up to the upside. The last thing I wanted to take note of on Netflix was the high volume selling that we've got over here. And although this may not be the highest volume candle that you've seen in the past, right, it's definitely higher than the 50% drop that we got back in January, which is already a pretty hard drop from the all-time high. And these high volume candles and high volume sells can typically mark out bottoms in one way or another. And you can see that when we got this high volume sell back in January 2012, it wasn't the absolute low, right? But somewhere in this region, was basically the somewhere towards close to the low. So I wouldn't be surprised for this volume to also give us a little bit more of a signal that a bottom may be incoming. And if we get some sort of green buy side pressure in the next week or 2 or 3, then like I said, we might be starting to form some sort of bottom. So let's basically also keep an eye on this.